you. Please be seated. We'll go back on the record in the matter of State of Utah versus MacNeill. His attorneys are present with the state's attorneys are also present. We are outside the presence of the jury.
May we approach, Your Honor?
You may. Go ahead. I do need to make a record further. The defense objected to admission of the application for the identification. What exhibit is that? Can you tell me?
43.
Is that right? To State's Exhibit 43, specifically the defense argued that the exhibit was not relevant and that its admission, specifically the inclusion of the represented marriage date, was unfairly prejudicial. We had some discussion about that at the bench conference, but I wanted to make a further record of my reasoning. The point in time at which the defendant and Gypsy Willis held themselves out to be married is relevant to the state's theory of the case, specifically that the defendant killed Michelle MacNeill to marry another person. The exhibit was created in August of 2007 and has the marriage date of April 14th, 2007, and so it gives a range of time in which the defendant and Ms. Willis held themselves out to be married. Ms. Willis's testimony in that regard was incomplete in my view, and this is documented evidence giving the range of time in which they held themselves out to be married. And so it is relevant. As to the 403 objection, Rule 403 would exclude relevant evidence if its probative value is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. Unfair prejudice is a grounds in the evidence that would suggest to the jury that they make a decision on an improper basis, usually an emotional one. I'm not persuaded that the inclusion of the marriage date, the represented marriage date of April 14th, 2007, would inflame the jury any more than other evidence that they have heard, that the defendant engaged in a fairly lengthy premarital affair which he financed, that these parties texted each other substantially, including during the funeral, that the defendant moved Ms. Willis into the family home within weeks of Michelle's death, and that they continued an intimate relationship with each other in the family home, and that they took trips together shortly after Michelle MacNeill's death, leaving the children in others' care. All of that information is before the jury, and it just doesn't seem to me that this representation of the marriage date is any more inflammatory than what they've already heard properly and in the context of intrinsic evidence to the case. Therefore, the court concludes that the admission of the exhibit does not violate Rule 403. While it is prejudicial evidence, it is not unfairly prejudicial to the defendant. Do you wish to make a record further as to your objections?
No, Your Honor. Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Very good. Let's have the jury brought back. Thank you. Please be seated. We're back on the record in the matter of State of Utah versus Martin MacNeill. Mr. MacNeill is present with his counsel. The state's attorneys are also present. The jury is seated. Your next witness.
The state calls Lanny Swallow.
Ms. Swallow, if you'll come forward here to the clerk's desk, please raise your right hand and be sworn.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you shall give in the case not any before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you. If you'll be seated here, please.
Will you state your name and spell it, please?
Lanny Swallow, Lani Swallow.
Thank you. What city do you live in?
Springville.
Well, let me ask you, did you know Michelle MacNeill?
Yes.
Will you describe how you knew her?
I moved into the neighborhood the MacNeills lived in June of 2000.
What neighborhood was, well, let me ask you, what city was that in?
Orem.
Okay.
They lived in the Stonewood neighborhood.
Okay. How did you get to know Michelle?
Michelle was our Relief Society president. She was called just about the time that I moved into the ward, and she called me as the first counselor in the enrichment committee. So
Describe very briefly what that is.
okay, the enrichment committee is it's a part of the Relief Society. It's part of the women's group in the church where we often will get together and do activities and have lessons, things like that. And we quite often would plan parties and activities.
So the committee that you were a part of is in charge of setting those events up?
Right.
How well did you know Michelle?
I think I knew her pretty well. When we moved into the ward, my son was 10, and I think Damien and my son bonded. They were the two new boys in the neighborhood, and whenever I needed to plan things with Michelle, I'd often be over at her house doing that, and they would roughhouse and play, and then we were also, I was also called later on to be the primary chorister, and was able to get to know the girls that way.
Primary organization is one for children?
Yes.
In the church also?
Yes, Sunday school.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you said you got to know her children through that.
Yes.
Which children would you say you got to know well?
Ada was the first old enough to be in there for a year or so while I was in that calling, and then the 3 adopted daughters were also in there for a couple of years. So teaching them songs, interacting with them.
Did they know you as well?
Yes.
Did you attend Michelle's funeral?
Yes.
Were you able to observe Martin at the funeral?
Yes.
Will you describe his demeanor?
I didn't see him cry. He didn't seem upset. I didn't have really any interaction with him until after the funeral. So.
Let's talk about that. Will you describe what happened after the funeral?
Yes, the family went outside, and they were loading the casket into the hearse. And my husband and son and I were greeting the family, Damien and the girls, and offering them condolences. And then as we progressed, we talked to Martin, and I was just, my heart was broken. I just love this family and love these girls, and I just thought that it would be really important for them to have someone they knew that cared about them, that would give them comfort, and that knew their mother. And I had recently been laid off, so I asked Martin after I told him I was so sorry, and I said, I don't have a job right now. My son's grown out of the house. I would be happy to help you with the girls. If you need a nanny, I would love to do that for you. And he told me that it was okay, that he was all right, that he had already hired a nanny, that it was a nurse that he worked with.
Okay. Did he explain anything else to you about that person?
No.
And this was on the day of the funeral?
Yes.
Could I have 1 minute, Your Honor?
You may.
No other questions right now.
You may cross.
Are you Facebook friends with Alexis?
Yes.
And you're close to Alexis, right?
Yes.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Just real quick. Did you talk to Alexis about your testimony today?
No.
Have you said anything today that's not true?
No.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
Any questions for this witness? May she be released from her subpoena?
I think so, Your Honor, yes.
Any objection from the defense?
No objection.
You may step down, thank you. You're released from your subpoena. You won't be called back. Next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Linda Clough.
Ms. Clough, would you come up to the clerk's desk as well? Please raise your right hand and take an oath.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you shall give in the case now pending before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you. If you'll be seated here, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Will you please state your name?
Linda Clough,
And Linda, how do you spell your last name?
C-L-U-F-F.
Now, you've been in the court throughout this proceeding, is that correct?
Correct.
You've been actually seated inside here, the courtroom.
That's correct.
Why is that?
I'm a representative for the family.
Okay. And what's your relationship to Michelle MacNeill?
Michelle is my older sister.
Okay. Where is she in relation to you as far as the family?
She is 2 years older than me. I'm the youngest of 7 siblings.
And she's 2 years older than you are?
That's correct.
Okay. Linda, what city do you live in?
I live in Spanish Fork.
Okay. And are you familiar with Martin MacNeill?
I am.
And who is Martin?
My sister's husband, my brother-in-law.
Okay. Is Martin in the court today?
Yes,
And where is he seated?
right there.
Okay. Did you get to know the defendant while he was married to your sister?
Yes.
How often would you see him?
Like all through the 30 years, or
Just generally speaking, how often did you see him?
well, in the beginning, like of their marriage, quite often, and then at different times they lived in different states, and so it just varied. But I've seen him lots. I mean, quite often, lots and lots.
Okay. Can you describe your relationship with your sister Michelle? What kind of a relationship did you have?
It was close.
Close? Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you see her often?
Then again, it varied. I mean, depending on location and, where they lived, where I lived.
Okay. Did you see her interact with her children?
Yes.
What kind of a relationship did you view that Michelle had with her children?
It was extremely close
And why would you say that?
because her life circled around her children. She, her whole entire life was her children, I would say, and she took them to all the extracurricular activities,
What were some of those activities, do you recall?
ballet, school, whatever activities that they were involved in.
Okay.
She was always there by their side, highly involved in all of their shopping, just normal activities that a mother would be involved in.
Okay. Was Michelle a homemaker?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to take you to the date of April 14th, 2007.
Okay.
Did you attend the funeral and burial services for your sister
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall what time of day what day of the week was that, and what time did the funeral begin?
I'm not sure the day of the week exactly, but I think it was a Friday.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
You remember what time of day the funeral
It was
started?
about 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock? Do you remember approximately how long the funeral service
I
took?
believe it was about an hour.
About an hour. Do you recall where the service took place, the funeral service?
It was in American Fork.
Okay. At a church?
It was at a state center or a church.
Okay.
Yeah.
Having attended that service, did you observe the defendant that day?
Yes.
Prior to the funeral, did you observe him?
Yeah.
And tell us about that.
My family arrived early to see if we could help in any way.
And when you say your family, who are you referring to?
My husband at the time and my daughter. I can't remember who
Okay.
in my family attended, but
So you said you arrived early.
like a half hour, 45 minutes early, something
Okay.
like that.
Did you see the defendant at that time?
Yeah, he was pulled up with he had an Xterra, I believe, driving at that time, and the back of it was pulled up, and he was unloading big containers of memorabilia to set up display tables.
Was
And-
this memorabilia about Michelle?
Yes.
Okay.
Trophies, and I don't know everything that was in there, but we
Did
offered.
you see him, let me just stop you for one moment. Did you see him using a cane at that time?
No. He didn't have a cane. I didn't see any cane.
Did you watch him as he unloaded the boxes?
Yes.
And how did he appear to be doing physically?
He was fine. He was running back and forth from the church to his vehicle.
Did you offer to assist him?
Yes, I did.
And what did he say?
He refused. He was extremely rude, and he refused any help.
Okay. Did you later see him during the funeral service or right thereafter using a cane?
Yes.
What did you see?
He was limping and holding a cane.
What can you describe what was going on when you saw him?
Yeah, there was people arriving, and he was using his cane and walking up to the podium.
Okay. What about after the service? Did you see him using a cane?
Yes.
And can you describe what you saw and the circumstances around it?
Okay, it was the graveside, service where you go afterwards to the graveside.
Do you know where this is?
The grave is in Highland, the Highland Cemetery.
Okay.
So we followed over there, and he wasn't using the cane, and then he was using the cane. And I think it was Ada was upset, and so he picked up Ada. There was, first people weren't there because we...
Did you, okay, so you saw him, you said he was using a cane, then he wasn't using a cane. You referred to him picking up Ada. Where did he pick up Ada?
By the plot area where Michelle was, casket was.
Okay. Was he using his cane when he picked up Ada?
No,
Do you know what happened to the cane?
it was set aside.
Okay.
I saw it sitting there.
Just describe what you saw then.
And then as people were starting, he was picking up Ada, like, because she was upset, and he picked her up, and people were starting to come. And then I noticed him just like looking around, and it was like just the look that I could describe on his face. It was like,
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
She may describe the look, but no sustained as to interpretation at this point.
I'll
Go ahead.
rephrase the question, Your Honor. So describe what you actually saw. You talked about a look on the defendant. What did you see? As opposed to what you may have concluded.
not sure,
Was there an expression on his face?
like, like, oh no, I don't, like, surprise or
Okay.
worry. Like
Okay.
a worried look on someone's face.
What happened next?
He set Ada down and looked and grabbed his cane and picked it up and limped over to the, I think he actually handed the cane, my recollection was he had handed the cane to the funeral director when he picked Ada up, now that I'm thinking back.
Okay.
And then as people were starting to come, he set Ada down and started using the cane again
Okay.
as people approached.
Did he walk around with Ada in his arms?
Yes, he was walking around.
Can you describe how he was
Walking
walking?
normally, no limp, walking around.
And when he retrieved the cane at the graveside, can you describe his walking?
It was limping again.
Okay. Did you have occasion to attend a funeral luncheon or dinner after the services? And
I'm sorry, excuse me, what was your answer?
I did.
Thank you.
do you remember when that was during the day approximately?
I don't. It was just sometime after you just went directly to I mean, I don't remember leaving and going home or anything. It was directly after.
And where was it held?
It was in Pleasant Grove. There was a little white chapel, so it was,
Okay.
right by their home. I can drive there now, but I can't remember, like, it's a little white chapel, but
Okay.
not sure.
Who was invited to that luncheon?
Well, there was family and friends, and I believe it was open to most anybody that wanted to stay and come to it.
When you say family, that would include Michelle's daughters,
Yes,
obviously the defendant, Martin.
that's correct.
Okay. And extended family.
Yeah.
Some
those that were
extended family.
invited, yes.
Okay. Did you have occasion to observe the defendant at that luncheon?
I did.
And where were you and where was he when you observed him?
Well, I was sitting at a table. I just remember my daughter, Jill, was next to me. And so he was at another table that was really close. It was like one table over.
Okay. Did you hear him speaking?
I did.
And what did you hear?
He was smiling, joking around with some gentlemen. And I heard him it was particularly disturbing to me, but he was just, it caught my eye to listen more because he was joking, saying that he would have to he's going to have to get used to living the life of a bachelor and hanging out with buddies and golfing, something to that effect.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
You may cross.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
You indicated when you arrived at the funeral, not the funeral home, the church where the funeral was
Correct.
located on April 11th, that your family was there,
Yes.
correct? So there was quite a number of you there.
No. Hardly anybody was actually invited, but
No,
what family?
your family was there. You said that you, your husband, your daughter,
And maybe my younger son, but
your son,
that's about
and you
it.
observed Martin bringing stuff in and out of the church,
That's correct.
and he didn't try to hide the fact from you that he was walking without
No.
a cane, did he?
No.
And when you saw him at the cemetery after the funeral, he didn't try to hide the fact from you and others that he was carrying Ada without a cane, did he?
No.
You began or created a website in relation to my client Martin MacNeill, correct?
I did.
It's martinmacneill.info, correct?
Correct.
And on that website, you began it in roughly was it the fall of 2010?
I believe so, something like that.
About then? Maybe late summer?
Something,
thereabouts?
I'm not sure.
And on that website, you have listed lots of different media, stories that have been published in the media about Mr. MacNeill, correct?
Yeah, correct.
And you listed on your website the Deseret News story that was published on December 4th of 2010, correct?
I'd have to check, but I possibly.
May I approach her?
You may.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Is that all? Okay.
And so you posted the story in the Deseret News from December 4th of 2010.
Probably, because any article usually that's comes out, I'll post it and then refer it back to the original article.
And from those screenshots, does that not refresh your recollection?
Yeah.
So you posted it immediately after it was published on December
Yeah.
4th?
I usually try to keep it up to date. That's correct.
And then you also posted the links to the Nancy Grace show that was on December 7th of 2010?
Correct.
Correct? And you even included the full transcript of the Nancy Grace show, correct?
Correct.
And you also posted on your site the 2020 episode from February of 2011, correct?
Apparently, yes.
And you optimized your site with lots of different search terms so that anybody searching the internet about Mr. MacNeill would have a high probability of finding your site, correct?
Correct.
And you also put your own editorials of your own opinions on your site too.
Yes, I did.
And you've had some contact with Detective Smith, who's testified in this trial today, correct?
Smith?
From Pleasant Grove?
Objection, Your Honor.
I-
assumes
I'm
facts
sorry,
not-
I used the wrong name. Wright. Detective
Oh,
Wright.
yes, yes.
Thank you.
Sustained. It's Detective Wright.
Detective Wright.
Yes,
My
I have.
mistake. Apologize. And And you told Detective Wright that you believe that my client paid off the medical examiner.
I never said that. That's it.
May I approach?
You may.
I know, and he's got wrong statements in there, actually.
So you never said that?
No, I did not.
Okay.
If you notice, there's a lot of incorrect things. He's got my name and Michelle's transposed, and
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Your
Go
Honor,
ahead.
can we approach Mr. Spencer and I?
Yes.
Linda, Mr. Spencer asked you if it was your observation that the defendant wasn't hiding the fact that he wasn't using the cane at the graveside services. Will you describe again the look on his face when he looked around and saw others seeing him not
Yeah.
using the cane?
he looked worried, like a panic look, a little bit beyond worried, like panicked, because when he wasn't using the cane, it was before people arrived, and we got to the graveside before other people, were family. So it was when people were not around, and so when he thought people were looking, there was a panic look.
Objection, Your Honor. She's now going into her own speculations.
Sustained.
Upon seeing the defendant act that way or look that way, what did he do immediately?
He grabbed the cane
Okay.
and began using it.
You were asked a little bit about a website that you've created
That's correct.
for Michelle. Why did you create that website, Linda?
For information, and I don't know if I'm going to
Just
be...
what's the purpose of that website? Why did you create it?
For several reasons.
Okay. And what are those reasons?
One of the main reasons was to hope to gather information.
For what purpose?
If there was more victims out there of any crime that I felt that that Martin that may have done to other people.
Your objection is foundation, correct?
Foundation and
And-
also other pretrial rulings that Your Honor has made.
Thank you. Sustained.
Did you have a purpose with respect to Michelle for creating that website?
Yes.
And what was that purpose?
Just to gather information and to have more well, the investigation was slowing down, and I wanted to there's several reasons. The investigation was slowing down. I wanted to have more coverage and to have information out there for other people, and it was a gathering tool to get more information. If there was anybody that knew, had any more information.
Your Honor, non-responsive.
Overruled.
You may answer the question. If there was anyone else that had other information.
Just surrounding the years that there was a gap of information, so I was just looking for anybody that knew information, like from the developmental center or other avenues, that knew, that maybe would have been afraid to come forth. I don't know.
And this was information related to an investigation.
Yes.
What investigation with respect to Michelle?
well, a murder investigation.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge.
Thank you. Any redirect? Or recross, I'm sorry. None? Do you have any questions for this witness? Will she remain under subpoena?
Yes, Judge.
You'll remain under trial subpoena. You may retake your place in the
Do you want,
bench.
Randy?
Do you need
want-
these?
Do you need these?
Thank you. You may step down. Thank you. Next.
Your Honor, the state calls Vicki Willis.
Ms. Willis, if you'll come up here to the clerk's desk first, please raise your right hand and be sworn.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you shall give in the case now pending before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you. Please be seated here and respond to counsel's questions.
Your Honor, may Ms. Guston and I approach the witness for just a moment off the record?
Me?
The witness.
Come to me first, please.